This is All About Home Construction, and here's your hosts, Terry Cannell Beck and Randy Blake.
Right. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Terry.
Happy Saturday, man.
Happy Saturday to you and everybody out there.
That's right. So it's a beautiful Saturday morning here on All About Home Construction. It feels like fall finally.
Oh, I hate to tell you this, but the leaves are changing.
Maples. All the maples are starting to look red.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. I like fall. I mean, it's my favorite time of the year when you get up and it's like you get those nice crisp mornings and then you get some pleasant days. Then it gets cool at night.
We're a little below average now, but you know, this is the first weather pattern that I ever remember with the air coming all summer out of the north.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a weird summer for weather. I mean, it's been like hot and dry, and then we've had some rainy spells, and I don't know. Overall, I think it's been pretty fair.
And you know, they're calling for snow in the northeast.
I know.
Northwest, excuse me.
Northwest, yep. And
higher mountains.
You know, I have not. I have to say I've neglected to look at the almanac's predictions for the area this year. I'm not sure what they're predicting on the weather. I have to get into that.
Yeah.
I usually like to look at it.
A glance. How about that?
Yeah. I don't follow. This time of year though, I like to look at it and see what they're saying.
It's almost like the calendar hadn't indexed far enough every year to keep up.
Yep.
Because, you know, it used to be everybody on Memorial Day go to the beach and it'd be warm.
Right.
Now it's a month later before it's warm enough to go to the beach.
Yep. So, anyway, All About Home Construction. Give us a call today, 828-262-1567. We'd love to put you right on and talk a little bit about All About Home Construction here. And as always, thanks to all of our listeners out there. Hey, don't forget the podcast as well, All About Home Construction. We're on wherever you listen to podcasts or tell your speakers to play, your smart speakers, your Alexa, or whatever you listen to. You can also find us on YouTube now. So.
Yeah. Thanks,
Pretty
Terry.
Cool stuff. Hey, that's an easy one. That's an easy fix. That was one of those easy things where I can just load it up. I say easy. I have to just click some buttons and it works. It's fun.
But if you look up All About Home Construction by itself, we won't come up. You have to ask Terry and Randy.
Well, or podcasts. It'll come up if you add the word podcast too.
Okay.
But yeah, we're there. But if you look on YouTube, it'll pop up. The channel should. So. Anyway, and the more people that listen to it and like it, the more it pops up. So you're helping everybody out.
Yep.
When you listen. See? Anyway, we do appreciate all of our listeners out there, near and far. So what's been happening in the world of construction, man?
Just construction.
That's good, right?
Yeah. Back and forth. We've been remodeling out in Elk Park all year.
Ooh, nice.
And, framing in the basement. See, they had a guy come in and he put fern strips on the wall, 3/4 inch fern strips, and then he put 3/4 inch foam. Then he put wood on it.
Right.
Well, that was the foundation I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That had holes in it the size of a baseball in the block.
Some moisture was getting behind.
A lot of water, and so we pulled all that down, and we dry locked the walls. Mm-hmm. We actually used 2-color dry locks.
Oh, yeah?
And the reason for that is we use white first. And then that way, when you go back over with the gray, the white will show through if it don't penetrate it.
So you see that you covered it.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question is what does it matter what color? But I see what you're saying.
Because of the porousness of the block. And, block has been a staple foundation for decades. Mm-hmm. Used to be cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks, right. And we still call them that. A lot of people do, but they're not really cinders anymore.
No, but they're porous. Mm-hmm. And a block, CMU, is a sponge, and it soaks up water. And one reason I've been trying to get away from block is because the web in between, you never fill with mortar, see? So in your house, you can waterproof everything inside and out, but you can still get a condensation on the fat part of it. Because you got that
hollow block.
That's right, because you cannot pour that section of it solid.
Well, see, and that's it. And even when you pour a concrete down in the block wall, there's always a chance that you don't get all the cavities filled.
Correct. So we've gone you know, when they call for 12-inch block, instead of using standard block, we go retaining wall block.
Okay, because it's solid.
No, it's open on both ends. So
okay.
So you don't have that little web
yep.
in there that you can't get the mortar in.
Right.
So you're actually putting more of a concrete in the wall, and you're stopping that little condensation area out.
Well, now you say mortar. Does it matter when you're building in terms of concrete versus mortar when you fill in a block?
No, mortar's what you put it together with.
Yeah, I know. But I've seen people fill it in with mortar.
No, mortar doesn't have any strength.
That's what I thought.
It's just there for holding.
Okay.
Because it bonds to it. Mm-hmm. But if you'll take concrete and have them add plasticizer to it,
it'll go.
Then
but still, you got to risk not getting all the way down in the bottom cavities, right?
The plasticizer is what they call flowable field.
Yeah.
And it will go all the way to the bottom. It's like the concrete's been oiled.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've seen it, I've used it, but I just always worry that you're going to miss a cell in there.
Well, you're not going to get everything because, like I said, because of the web.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to get the problems of the water leakage through.
Yeah. Well, you can only vibrate a block wall so much. I mean, it's not.
Well, eventually, with a vibrator, you can actually blow the block out.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's sort of my thing. Anyway, I say all that. I don't like. That's my problem with building with blocks.
Well, you know, my dad proved a point to me one time. It did cost him labor because I was young, about 12, 13, somewhere in there. And I said, well, that's pretty stout. And he said, actually, it's not. He said, block wall is actually a pretty weak wall until all the components of the house go together. Locks it together. And he had a 4-foot wall there, and he gave it a kick, and it fell over. You know, and he said that's corners matter, putting everything together the right way. One thing he did, you know, when my shop burned down, we did learn a lesson. Don't throw empty beer cans down in the block. Because you can never fill them.
Oh,
with concrete.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's funny.
Because my daddy drank Tall Boys.
Yep, and there was empty spots, huh? Empty cans.
So, but I'd rather do ICF foundation.
And that's isn't that where the technology is going? I mean, it seems like to me, you drive down the road, you're seeing more of that than you did with blocks. Of course, it's harder to find now, I guess.
Well, we've had a harder time getting it ever since, you know, under the Trump administration with the tariffs and stuff. A lot of the Johnson City factory shut down.
Right. Well, and I noticed here in town, there's several places that's gone with the superior walls recently.
Yeah, I like we built a house with superior walls. When we first did it, we did it with where they had the 1x4s on the in the in the middle of it. Now they've got the steel studs.
Steel, right?
But they've increased the foam. Mm-hmm. Now you don't have to put that 1x4 around the foundation that they wanted. Now you can take your concrete and pour inside the cavities.
Straight to the and so it locks it in more.
And you got a gasket there.
Yeah, I like it. But still, all of this, when we talk about foundations and block, and whether it's block or whatever, even superior walls or ICF, you're still reliant on what's on the outside factor.
That's
just like a house, and we talk about the roof, right? You've got to worry about what the weather is on the outside. In this case, maybe not the weather, but because it's underground, but you certainly have to worry about what water, what moisture, all the stuff that underground entails, and keeping that out is sort of the job of the wall, but the wall is also the strength, and so you need to sort of bridge that too, right?
That's right.
And it seems to me that that's the number one problem when you have a leaky basement, for instance. Whatever type of basement it is, it seems to me that the problem is not the block or the wall. The problem is what's on the opposite side of that wall and where the water is coming from.
We bought our house, and we've talked about it before, being a '64 model, and we had a flood. Well, I went down there and we had 4 inches of water in the basement.
Yeah,
and the water was coming through the 12-inch block, just like a little spray.
Yeah.
And so here I am in the fall, cold, taking golf tees and poking in the holes. Well, the only thing I did was I stopped the water from penetrating inside the basement.
It was still, yeah.
But it was still saturated inside the block. So where my garage door was in the front of the house, I went out, and there you go. You could see the water flowing all the way around the foundation, inside the block and coming out there.
Yep.
And so what we did was well, I didn't do it. Deb did it. She took a GI brush, because they used Dammit back then, and that was a water-based product, and it worked great. But the problem is, after so many years, it breaks down and starts flaking off.
Yeah.
About like enamel paint on side, and it's not been painted on the backside. And we put dry lock on it. We put several coats of dry lock, and it's helped, but you can still see places in the wall where it's coming through.
Yeah.
But let's talk that we talked about the web part of the block allowed moisture through. So what I've started doing over the years is in the wintertime is I buy a case of foam, high density foam. I drill the block, and I've been spraying it, filling the cavities. And but that's when I realized that the water was still coming through the web part.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah.
And plus the design of the block, the 50s block was different than the 60s block, because the 50s block, 40s, 50s had 3 cavities in them. Yeah. Where the modern block only has 2 cavities.
And then those cavities were being more, they were smaller. I mean, the blocks were the same size, and so and that goes back to my experience on concrete not getting all the way down in the bottom.
Correct. Now with the 3-web system, it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the key, right? And we know from thermal, we've talked so much about thermal breaks and insulation and stuff, and the thermal principles still apply to it, right? When you have air cavity anywhere, that air cavity inside of something, in this case block, is heating up different and cooling off differently than the air inside or outside.
Correct.
And that's where the condensation comes from. I mean, that's basic science, right? That's 5th grade science is, condensation. When one thing is warm and one thing is cold, the cold, is you're gonna start to get condensation. That's what putting an iced drink, setting it on the counter and getting the outside of the glass gets wet. It's the same principle of condensation. And so when you do that, when you have those cavities, that air, in the summertime is going to be cooler. And so the hot, it starts to sweat. And then in the wintertime, it's the opposite fact. You got the hot air inside and the cold air outside and that block air in the middle. And it's just, that's the condensation. That's the problems you run into.
Yep.
I don't know if there's any proof to this, but my argument, but I would argue that it's almost worse because it's a more constant moisture too. In other words, we think of the flooding, like you mentioned, a big rainstorm and water coming in. Yes, that's a lot of water that's at once, but it's that slow and steady, always moisture kind of thing that causes a lot of long-term damage that we don't see.
Correct, because it's on the outside of your wall.
Yep. So anyway, we'll take our first break. We'll come right back right after this. Thanks for listening to us. Obviously, by listening to this podcast, you see the value of All About Home Construction. Well, by joining our listener supporter community, you're not just tuning in, you're standing with us as we are able to support and fuel our passions of the construction industry. As a listener supporter, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, including hearing your name, or maybe even your business name, on our show. So please go to our Spotify website. The link will be in the show notes, and join. You can join for as little as $1 one-time fee, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you think you can afford. Every single penny helps to keep this show going as we can continue to grow and do lots more things. Thanks a lot. And again, more importantly, thank you for listening to this. That That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. And again, thanks so much to all of our listeners out there. Give us a call, 828-262-1567. Visit us on the Facebook page, All About Home Construction on Facebook, or send us an email, allabouthomeconstruction@gmail.com, and we will get whatever questions, concerns, comments you got. And if they're good comments, we'll put them on the air. If they're bad comments, I'll send them to Randy, and he takes care of them. No, seriously, thanks so much. So, talking a little bit about foundations and again, so much of this, of the foundation is so dependent on what we don't see.
Correct. And one reason I brought it up was because of the house that we're remodeling. Mm-hmm. We couldn't stop the water. You heard me talking about waterproofing the inside, but then we had about a half inch of water running. What they did was, they used blackboard as the expansion joint instead of a proper expansion joint to pour the concrete in. Mm-hmm. So here we are. We've waterproofed the inside, and which that's a quick fix. But here we got a half inch of water coming in,
right,
and it's flowing through in the foundation. So we went ahead and dug it out, and that's added expense.
Yeah,
that should have been done right the first time.
Right.
But like I told Terry, we had walls in the block, or holes in the block the size of baseballs.
That's crazy.
And there was nothing, no stucco.
Just where the hydraulic pressure had blown them out.
I think the block, well, I don't know. I can't tell you because the block was saturated. After block stays soaking wet for so long, it starts getting brittle. Yeah. And so we dug it out, and that's what we found, and we found holes everywhere. Yep.
Well, I want to talk about the proper way to do the outside in a minute, but before we go outside, my brother down in High Point was talking to me about this. He's got a crack in the wall, and where water's coming in occasionally. It isn't bad, but does it? I mean, I know we talk so much about thermal breaks and things like that, where it's really trying to get everything stopped at the outside before it even comes in. Is there a lot of benefit, though, to even do the inside waterproofing?
It just gives you a little sense of protection.
But it doesn't really
if you put it on
fix the problem, I guess. It's a Band-Aid, right?
That's all it is. But the point of it is it still keeps it from other areas of the house.
Yeah.
Because without the waterproofing in, if the block's hollow, the water can travel anywhere around it they want.
Right.
As the water level rises, it just dumps into the next block.
The next one over. Okay. That's sort of what I thought.
If you think of this, we're going to pour one cell in a block. Mm-hmm. Okay. Code used to want us to pour every 4 feet.
I remember I didn't remember what it was, but I do remember it was whatever.
But the thing about it is here, as that concrete goes in, it steps out as it goes down. All right. But then you got a hollow spot in every 4 foot, there's a hollow spot in the wall.
Yep.
And where we did what we were told. This is in 1988, and a few years later, we went back to the house and looked at it. We did everything the way the code said.
Sure.
We put 3 coats of Pargin on it, and then we come back, and everywhere that we had the stucco on, and the hollow parts had feather cracks in it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it made our stucco job look bad.
It looked terrible, didn't it?
And so, North Carolina went through some changes there where when to put steel in, where to put steel in. And then I guess in 2006 they finally addressed it, or 2006 or 2008 we had a class and they got to talking about the weight of concrete itself, if it's not supported with proper steel, can actually sag. Because of the weight of the concrete.
Makes sense.
Because if you use 2,500, if you use 2,500 PSI concrete, that's 2,500 pounds per yard. Same thing, 3,000, 4,000.
Yeah.
And then if you go to 5,000, 6,000, now you're using silica sand, which makes it that's more denser, but it also makes it strong.
A little stronger, right?
But you have to have the steel in it, and even wire, block wire that goes in between really helps out a bunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to get down the rabbit hole, but I'm going to ask anyway. Does it make a difference if you put fiber in the concrete?
It does, but
But you still have to put steel.
Correct.
Right.
North Carolina hasn't got that far.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Texas, Oklahoma, places like that, now they have little steel fibers that they put in the concrete.
Oh, the fiber is different fiber than what we put in today.
Yeah, what we use is fiberglass fibers,
Right.
okay? But they use steel fibers.
Ah, that's clever.
And so they've engineered it to the point that it will pass through a pump, it will bond together, and you don't have to put any rebar in the foundation. The Journal of Light Construction put out an article, the first 250-mile-an-hour home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's built in Texas, and it's built with ICFs, and it's supported with all this new concrete.
It's like a bunker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically what you're building, right?
Well, the whole house, all the walls, the gable walls, everything was all ICF foundation.
I'm telling you, that's. And then when you're done, you don't even know it from the road, from the inside.
There's even floor systems that you can put down in your poured concrete.
I'm a fan. All right. Well, I don't want to get too much down that rabbit hole because I want to get back to the foundations. So again, so much is you can put Band-Aids on the inside, but you really got to get to the outside.
Correct.
And that's probably. I mean, it's there's lots of reasons. But I think usually the problem is that houses just weren't done properly to begin with on the outside.
Well, people just, think about the older construction. Mm-hmm. The houses weren't built. I know you've been under houses that hadn't been 1 foot between the floor joist and the ground. There's really no way of waterproofing those foundations. Yes, you could do it, but they all felt like that was an extra cost that they didn't
matter, right?
And so, code changes. I personally, we've never built a crawl space within 2 foot of the ground. We just go ahead and excavate out.
You gotta go under there. You always got that one pipe that burst or something. I mean, it's.
Well, 2 foot's minimum code.
Yeah, but.
You can go down to 18 inches with treated lumber.
You can say what you want, but I've crawled under some of those old houses before, fixing pipes that burst in the middle of wintertime. No, thank you.
I'd rather have a 4 foot crawl space.
Yeah.
That way you can get.
I'd rather have an 8 foot ceiling, but who's counting?
Yeah. But then again, we go ahead and stucco the outside. Yeah. You don't necessarily have to put 3 coats on it, but what you want to do is you want to stucco and fill all the voids.
And that's giving you a one barrier.
And what we don't use mortar. We use Type S cement because it's waterproof.
And that was my question earlier with filling blocks with mortar. I've seen it done, and it's just not. It's not the same stuff, right? It may look the same to some people, but it's not the same stuff.
But regardless of what you do, if you use block, you use poured foundations, you use ICF. Everything's got to be waterproof one way or another.
Right. Well, and so there's multiple ways to waterproof, right? I mean, the old-fashioned way, if you will, is the whole tar. I mean, I remember seeing the old black buckets of tar that you put on, and I say tar, it may be a different product, but it was like a sticky-looking tar that you roll and scrape on. And
well, we used to put it on the trowel.
Yeah,
that's how thick it was. Mm-hmm. Now it's a liquid that you don't have to heat up. I remember buckets of tar being heated up so you could spread it. And but you can take a roller, dip in it, and roll it on the wall. But then again, there you go. You're not done with one coat.
Yeah. You gotta go back and put more.
Yeah, because me talking about using the dry lock in 2 different colors.
Right.
Well, same thing with the tar. You're going to have voids in it you're going to miss.
Yep. So the trick is, even with the old school tar, is again extra coats. Make sure that it all covers.
Yes.
Well, then you started seeing, various products put on the outside of the tar.
North Carolina still recognizes plastic, 6 mil plastic.
Okay.
You can go with even better. You can go up with 10 mil plastic. You can go with 20 mil plastic. But these are all plastics that cost a lot more money.
Yeah. Money aside, it seems to me that plastic would be a great idea, though.
Well, it's the cheapest form you can do.
Yeah, I mean, it gives it a solid barrier then. But I guess the trick is, and this is the next step, right, was when you go back with some kind of gravel, is
keep from tearing the plastic.
How do you do that? Yeah, how do you add plastic? I mean, how do you add gravel next to plastic and not tear it?
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you tear it or not.
Right.
Because you're dependent.
It's covered up.
You're dependent on the plastic being glued to the wall.
Yeah.
code calls for us to put our foundation drain and our gravel below our footings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times here in the mountains, it's extremely hard to do it because it's all you can do to walk behind the foundation.
Yeah.
And but over the years, everybody evolves and does better. If you have it, like I was telling you about the house out there in the Oak Park. Benjamin dug out 4 foot past it, so we could get in there and do what we needed to do.
Plenty of room, right?
And if you follow OSHA regulations, when you excavate, you got to go up 1, out 2, up 1
To
out,
keep it from collapsing on
right.
you.
And then it does happen, which I'd rather dig out a little further, a little wider,
Right. Then
to make sure that nobody gets hurt.
well, and it's the digging part itself. You're not really talking that much difference in time when you're digging the foundation. To go 4 extra feet out is not going to make a huge difference in time effects.
Well,
usually,
it's not.
generally.
But the point of it is, they can actually, when they excavate, have the dirt actually fall away from the foundation instead of trying to scrape it off. So,
well, so then that brings up though, because codes is there a way around gravel? I mean, code is required. Gravel is required for code, right?
No, not necessarily. You can actually use a septic pipe that has the little peanuts in it, styrofoam peanuts. You can use that,
and you just fill it with dirt.
No, you still have to. What you have to wrap it in is in filter cloth, so the dirt don't penetrate it.
Okay.
But eventually, the dirt penetrates the filter cloth,
and that's my problem with all French drains or whatever you want to put in. Is at some point, dirt, even gravel, right? I mean, that's the advantage of gravel is that the gravel acts as a filter to keep the dirt from penetrating with the water.
Correct.
Water penetrates, it drains through. The gravel itself, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the gravel, right, it acts as a drain itself.
That's right.
Now, we put pipes in, but the gravel is a drain.
Water will travel through that gravel.
But as the more water that goes through, the more dirt you're pulling through with that water, and eventually, over time, years and years and decades, that gravel is going to be so intermixed with the dirt that's getting washed in.
Well, it'll be fine, and whole idea is that eventually it does wash out.
Yeah.
Okay. And but another thing that really happens too is if you go with French drain, it's corrugated.
Yep.
All right. When you start to getting sand in it
builds up in
then
that
it builds
corrugation.
out over time. Even though instead of drying out, it stays damp, and when it stays damp, it glues to whatever comes down.
Yep.
And that's the reason I want to get away from corrugated and go to and I like slick wall pipe.
But then the slick wall pipe, isn't that one of those the holes up, the holes down kind of conversation?
Well, there you go. Charles Church proved that. He said, "Guys, put your holes down."
Yeah.
Well, we want to catch the water coming down. He said, "You're not going to catch it all coming down. What you want to do is get it out as it backfills up. The level rises below." And there you go. That was another lesson that was taught to us in real time because he dug the end of it out and said, "Look here."
It's coming out.
Yeah. And,
so...
them life lessons that people take the time to teach you something are extremely important.
I get it. Can you have too much drainage?
No, never.
I mean, that's my thing is like, why not go back? Like, what's the minimum distance required for backfill, for a gravel and drain backfill? Or is there?
About a foot by foot gravel, and that's about it around your drain.
That's all that you have to have by code.
That minimum code.
But if you go back, like for instance, you were talking about digging back 4 feet from the foundation. If you backfill that with gravel first, then you've got more than that 1 foot. The more gravel you put in, the less likely you're going to have any water problems.
Correct.
Right?
So what Benjamin did was, when he put the gravel in the wall, he actually sloped the gravel back toward the dirt.
Mm-hmm. So now the drain is coming back out.
So as the filter cloth filled up over years, it actually shed the water to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd probably take another several decades for the silt to actually go through. But see, we don't use regular 3-foot filter cloth.
You use the large.
We use road mat that they put under the road to put the gravel on.
And that's just one of your tricks of the trade, right? Like, that's not code. I mean, the code is whichever.
Yeah, filter cloth on it. But with that, see, what that enables us to do is able to, as a backfill, we can actually cut back on the width of the amount of gravel going in, because we can hold the filter cloth up and they can backfill behind it, and then keep taking.
Yeah.
We've actually took gravel all the way up to the ground level, all the way back.
And to me, that's the key, right? The more the gravel you put in, the instead of dirt, the more drainage you're going to get, which means the less water that's going to eventually get into the foundation.
Yep. Well, think about this: the depth of the height of the Grand Coulee Dam.
Mm-hmm.
How far at the base wide is it to make sure that they support all that weight of water and it all comes in on both sides as a taper to the top, and when it gets to the top, it's probably 60, 70 foot wide.
Yep.
So that means it could be a couple 100 foot wide at the bottom.
Science.
Well, that's because somebody failed at something at one time.
Love it. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back right after this. Are you looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment you need to get the job done? Look no further than Blue Ridge Sawmills. We offer the full line of Hudson sawmills and sawmilling equipment, from portable sawmills to skidding winches. At Blue Ridge Sawmills, we understand that every project is different, which is why we offer a wide range of sawmilling services. We can help you from everything from finding the right mill for your farm, hobby, or even your business. We also offer a variety of sawmilling supplies, such as blades and debarkers, so you can get everything you need in one place. If you're looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment and the service you need, then come to Blue Ridge Sawmills. We're here to help you get the job done. Call or visit our Cana, Virginia store at 276-755-3833 or our Asheboro, North Carolina location at 336-964-8304. That's right, all about home construction here on WAETA. And again, thanks to all of our listeners out there, talking a little bit about foundations, more importantly about the drainage of foundations this morning. And that's the key, right? Is that keyword of drainage, keeping the water away.
Well, one thing they call out too is code doesn't address it, but a lot of foundation sites, are showing putting blue board or pink board against your foundation, and then backfilling. I remember times over history, you talked about the gravel, doing the plastic. Okay, well, blackboard was pretty cheap.
Yep.
All right, blackboard was a whole lot cheaper than putting blue board or pink board, and plus it's got tar in it.
Yeah.
See, so you can actually, if you hit that plastic again with another roll cover of tar, then you stick
another row, yeah.
And then it works real good. But one thing I've learned over the years about blue board and your foam products below ground. So you can't use Armax with the foil below ground.
Right.
So you have to use blue board.
The blue board, right.
Or pink board. Is insects love it. Mm-hmm. Ants, termites.
It's easy for them to dig in, and it goes forever. I get that.
And they can travel without having to build their little chambers and everything. And but it does help when you backfill your foundation, and it gives you an R value for so many years till the insects eat it out.
Okay.
They don't really eat it.
Enough of an R value to make it beneficial, though, cost-wise?
No, I don't think so, because
because you're only adding what R value of. I mean, blue board's what, 1?
No, blue board is 3.2.
3.2
for a half inch.
Okay.
Blackboard's 0.5, and but it's just a point of thermal transfer through your block.
Yeah. Okay.
But you still have to do an R11 on your inside with your framing and stuff.
Yeah.
Or R10, I think, is a minimum. We don't ever use R10. We turn around and use R15 just because it doesn't cost that much more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, though, so let's back up. You've already got water problems because so much of this is new construction, right? So new construction, the idea is You put your drain in the bottom below the footer, and then you fill it up with you put your some kind of cloth, like you said, you use the road cloth, filter cloth. But you put some kind of filter, and then you're putting filling with gravel between the cloth and the block.
Yeah.
Which was, by the way, covered with some kind of waterproofing.
Over the years, we forgot about it, using the plastic. It's still, you can still, like I said, you can still use it. We use a product called Mirror Dry.
Yeah, and so that's the stuff you roll on, is that right?
No, you can. It actually comes with its own adhesive.
So that's that's the big stuff that you see, and it's like it's like sticky
Tar paper. But it's
basically.
real slick on the outside.
And that's pretty thick. I mean, 1/8 inch, 1/2 inch thick, right?
Well,
maybe not 1/2 inch, but it's 1/8 inch thick.
But it stops you from having to use the blue borders on the excess.
And it's almost like a rubber, though.
It is. It's a rubber membrane, but it you can actually use a glue to use paint on the walls.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I've seen.
But you just go ahead and do one coat of stucco and then put that on.
Okay.
But the thing about it is you better be very good at it, because
when it sticks, it sticks, right?
When it sticks, it sticks. So you always got to have somebody holding something.
Yeah.
I've seen it laid vertical, and I thought that was quite nifty. But the point of it is, if the glue ever
seams,
if more seams, correct. So if the seams ever fail because of the glue fails, now it can allow water to seep in. So
because when you do it vertical, I mean horizontal, you're overlapping, right?
Correct.
I mean a little bit at least.
And we'll take and when we overlap it, we'll take a roofing tack and nail to the wall, something hard like that. And then that way it can't separate, but as the water runs down, it just continues to go on.
It sheds right off.
Yep.
All right, so that is the sort of the proper way, right? We can talk about different types of materials now, or different products rather. But I mean that's essentially the way it should be done. Gravel goes all the way. Essentially to the top. What the code doesn't require it to the top though. Right?
No, it just requires a foot by foot. Even with the drain pipe with the foam peanuts in it, it does not require any gravel at all.
Right.
And the picture I showed you right there, the French drain is actually off the ground about 3 inches. Now, as you backfill it, it compresses it on down. But they also show the correct procedure is to wrap that filter cloth all the way around it, tape the seams to hold it,
right,
and then you backfill.
So let's say existing houses, because this is where the issue comes, right? Is so many times it was done incorrectly, or it's an older house and what was done correctly at the time for the time is not holding up to mother nature now. There's really no good fix if you're having problems now. Aside, I mean, like I said, we can put a Band-Aid on the inside, but really you're going to have to go out and dig that back out and redo it, right?
No, there's actually 2 systems out there.
Okay.
And both systems can be used on the inside.
Okay.
Tar Heel basements.
Mm-hmm.
That Tar Heel basements was started here in Watauga County.
Right.
All right. They have a foundation system that they cut out around the foundation, 3 inches. They dig down to your footer, fill it full of gravel, put this plastic unit in. All right. Now they drill your block.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when they drill the block, that allows the water to travel into that channel and goes into a sump pump.
Okay.
And the whole idea is, yes, the block's going to stay wet, but the point of it is you're getting the hydraulic pressure off of it. So it's not wicking in at other places.
So the hydraulic pressure is one thing that we've not really talked about. That's what's pushing the water in. So it's the water's not, I mean, the water can still be there, but it's the hydraulic pressure that's pushing it in. And that pressure, as dirt and mud starts to push, like that's what, when you see the blowouts of the walls and stuff, that's what's pushing it in, is the hydraulic pressure of the
a good thing is we have a big rain. Out in your yard, you got a new spring that just popped up. During the summer when it's dry, all the holes fill up, and so the spring pressure builds up somewhere else, and it comes out somewhere else.
Yep.
So. And both products, I've never had a basement with the Tar Heel basement.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around them. You know,
Sure.
All three of my youngest.
I was going to say, your kids kind of.
Yeah, you know, started in that business. My son-in-law still does it. And but the point of it is, it worked. The other system that we had, that we did use on another house, only made it 1.5 inches thick. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that allowed us to turn a 2x4 flat against the wall, nail it to the wall, and then we put drywall that went down over the bottom of it and covered it.
Okay.
But we had to go with a wider base and just shoot the top of it on instead of the bottom. Okay.
Gotcha.
With the Tar Heel basement systems, they've created their own system that can go on inside the wall to make sure no moisture ever gets in the room.
Right. Now, I mean, I know we're talking a lot about here in the mountains of North Carolina, but I mean, is it the same stuff that your kid's dealing with in Oklahoma?
No, most houses out there slab on grade.
Okay.
And not a lot of basements.
So his foundation, he doesn't have to worry as much about the water coming in the foundation because of that, because it's on top of the
Correct.
ground.
They do more poly level.
Okay.
Because of the type of construction out there.
Got you. That makes sense.
IBC code calls for a turned down slab. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing a turned down slab, they'll pour a 6-inch slab. And like I said, finally got to go in some houses out there last time I was there,
right,
and look at the construction of the homes. And I can truly tell you why they blow down.
Right.
They're definitely not built like what we build here.
Sure.
You know, and the contractor's license out there only costs $55.
Well, then what are we doing here?
Well, I just can't speak Spanish.
Well, and that's what I'm interested in is just sort of the difference. And so I know as we kind of wrap things up, I know that you've had this conversation before of French drains, and that is using the guttering system in the house, catching the water on the outside up top, and flushing those drains out.
I did, and I've got quite a few homes out there that we've built over the years, up until, I guess, the late, great Bill Miller, Joe Miller's brother. He was an engineer, and he said, Randy, it's a great idea. He said the only problem is because of the leaves and sticks that get caught in the corrugated
Now you're
pile.
adding organics.
Yeah, to the system. And he said it works great as long as you use slick pipe. Mm-hmm. See, well, everybody looks at, when you go to bid a house, everybody looks at the nickel and dimes that you do a house. Mm-hmm. Well, why does this drain line cost $300 more than this drain line over here? Or why are you putting 21 tons of gravel behind my foundation instead of putting 4 tons?
Right.
And they're looking at the cost, but they're looking at the penny cost versus the overall cost, because a lot of these extra things that you do is only probably about 1% or probably 0.5% of what the whole total cost is.
Sure. Well, I get it. I mean, penny pinching, but you gotta be tight on some things. But
and the reason for that is because we get a lot of transients here.
Yeah.
They come up and buy, 5 years they're gone.
And so I guess that's the thing is like, how do you view your house, right? And what type of investment are you viewing your house?
How long are you going to live in your house?
That's what I mean. Like if you're, because we all want to live in a great house, but that doesn't mean we want to buy and build a great house. Because if we're looking at flipping it, we want to cut those pennies because our goal is to not live in a nice built house. Our goal then is to flip our money. It's an investment.
Yeah, correct.
And so I guess it really does. It sort of depends on how you look at how you're viewing your construction, like what
we've had
your
people,
end goal is.
Wow, let's just do this all on these 2 floors right here. Then you go downstairs, and all they want to do is paint the concrete.
Yep.
Instead of putting laminate flooring down or putting. We've even had people come in and say, we want linoleum down.
Yeah.
And cover the whole basement in linoleum. And the thing about it is, all linoleum is not created equal.
Nope. So, all right. Well, that's good stuff. I mean, again, the whole key is to keep the water away, and do what we can to keep it away. And I probably should. We should probably add, like, there's the drainage on top, getting the water away from the house to begin with
is the most important.
Probably,
part.
I mean,
just like over the years, we've got away from 5-inch gutters.
Yeah.
We don't install anything but 6-inch gutters now.
Right.
And the reason for that is because of the volume of flow of water.
Getting that water away.
Yep.
Yeah. So, no, it's good stuff.
Look
Good
here.
stuff.
I'll show Terry a picture here. Y'all can't see it, but there's nearly 5 foot between the
That's the way to be.
the ground and the foundation
I mean,
wall.
you've got me convinced, and I know gravel's not cheap, but it seems I hate water. Like, I hate the idea of water getting in my basement, whether it's just dampness or whether it's actual flooding.
Hey, guys, don't forget I got breakfast next Saturday at VFW.
That's right. We got a little sidetracked. We did not say it. Breakfast next Saturday at the VFW, the first Saturday of the month, and I like a good breakfast. I want some gravy. I may have to go over and get some.
Well, we're getting ready to add a couple new items.
Oh no!
I mean, we're growing.
Love it.
This month we're going to have barbecue and brisket for our dinner.
Ooh, I like a good barbecue. I like a brisket too, but barbecue is where my heart's at, man.
You know, Colin does a good job. Dave does a good brisket.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to us. All About Home Construction. We'll see you next week at the VFW. We'll be back here. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to All About Home Construction on the podcast. We record this live every Saturday on AM 1450 and FM 96.5 WATA in Boone, North Carolina. You can become a supporter by supporting this with a small monthly donation, and that'll help sustain future episodes. You can do that for as little as 99 cents a month, and that'll go a long way to help our show. Do that, you get your name or your company name included in our advertisements. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.